Hi everybody, I'm Brett Ullman and welcome to Parenting Navigating Everything, the channel where we equip and empower parents to navigate all aspects of parenting in this modern culture today. Today we look at 10 places where phones should not be allowed. We do need to find a more balanced relationship with our phones, because today I think most of us kind of side on the addiction conversation as opposed to having a balanced relationship with our phone. For many people, it's become the first thing you see when you get up in the morning, and it's the last thing you see when you go to bed at night. And parents, we're not getting better at modeling good behavior with our phones. I was recently walking my English Bulldog Bailey, so you can imagine how slow that walk goes. And as we're walking past a park, there's a woman pushing her kid with one hand on a swing and staring at a phone in the other hand. The entire time we walked by, she didn't speak one time to her child. The child just got pushed and she just stared at her phone. I do think phones are great. It connects me with people when needed. My kids can text me when they need a ride from a friend's house, or when volleyball practice is late, or they've stayed late at school to do homework, and they can write me and quickly get a message over to me and I can go and pick them up. People today, though, are so afraid on missing out on what might be happening somewhere else, which is why we're looking at our phones, that they're missing out on what is actually happening right in front of them. Rather than just saying we get rid of our phones, or the opposite side of the coin, which is everything's just fine and we'll leave it the way it is, which is also not true, maybe we need to look at a few places we can lessen, decrease, or completely get rid of our phones in our lives. There's a great quote that says this: if you can't give it up, you don't own it, it owns you. We are slowly being changed by the way that we use our phones. The first place we need to not allow phones is mealtime. When you're at home eating meals together, eat together. Have people make the meal, serve the meal, wait until all people are seated, and spend some time together. In my house, we used to do a thing where my wife and I would say, tell us one thing good that happened today and one thing bad that happened today. And my wife and I were part of that. Now that we have teenagers, I find there's usually more than enough to talk about, even by asking, how was your day? If you don't know what to talk about, I think there might be some communication issues, but just search online for good dinner or mealtime questions and you'll find more than is enough to actually begin that in your house. In this place, I think too, you're going to have everyone put their phones away. Not in their pockets, which will buzz over and over, distracting them the entire meal. Not on the table where we all hear the buzz. Either on airplane mode, or what I would suggest, turn it off. I actually like the idea of putting the phones physically somewhere else in the kitchen. Maybe in a basket. I used to say in a pot, until a woman actually wrote me and said all 4 of her family had put their iPhones in a pot, but she put the pot back on the stove, which was still cooling down, and it melted 4 phones. Probably not a good idea. Not only should we not have phones when we're eating meals at home, but also meals when we're in restaurants. I watch couples and families and groups of 20-somethings out at restaurants. No one talks anymore. I was once at a restaurant when I was speaking, and a waitress came over and asked me if I wanted to move because 15 to 20 young adults were coming in. She said they might be loud, so she would move me, and I said, I think I'll stay because from what I see, no one's going to actually talk anymore. They're all going to be on their phones. She came back a while later and asked me how the noise was, and to be honest, I didn't really even notice. I was reading my book and eating my dinner, and I looked beside me, and there was an entire table of 20-somethings. Not one of them was speaking. Every single one of them was on their phone. Again, they're missing out on what's happening at that moment and looking at what might be happening somewhere else. Another time, I was out for breakfast with my family. My parents had taken my wife and myself and my kids out for breakfast. In the middle of our breakfast, I looked around. We were the only family talking in the entire restaurant. At a table near us, 3 kids and both parents were all on their phones, while 2 grandparents just kind of stared around aimlessly because they were being completely ignored. Second place, phones should not be allowed in our cars. There is no need to have a game on in the car when we're traveling. You can play games, do Snapchat streaks, and whatever else you want to do after your drive. Parents, driving is where I have had some of the best conversations with my own kids and my wife. Now, I'm not talking about long trips. If you're going to 2-hour drive away for Christmas or Easter or Thanksgiving or going on vacation, that's very different. I'm talking about the 20-minute drive to the mall. We don't need to have our phones out. Third place we should not be allowing phones is in bed. Study after study is showing how staring at a screen an hour or more before bed can actually negatively affect your sleep. Read a book before bed. Also, your phone must be turned off before you go to sleep. I read a statistic that says 10% of people wake up nightly from dinging of their phones throughout the night. I think that's a really low number as well, and it might be a lot higher. Fourth place we should not be allowing phones is when you're talking to someone. If you're talking to someone, give them your attention. If you're always looking at your phone when you're talking to someone, we actually are telling them that we don't really care. We have such a fear of missing out that while we're actually again with someone, we'd rather be looking at what might be happening. I would suggest putting in airplane mode for the entire conversation. I even heard one guy recently who said he puts his phone in airplane mode and gives the phone to the person he's talking to just for those few minutes so he can give his attention the entire time. And I really like that. Fifth place we should not allow phones is while we're walking. Cities across North America are now looking at enacting laws called zombie laws, good name, which prohibit people from looking at their phones while walking because we now have such a serious problem with people walking into traffic, walking into other people, and actually getting hurt. Number 6, a place you should not have your phone is while you're driving. This should be an easy one. If you're the person driving, stop looking at your phone. We're now seeing accidents over and over again from people staring at their phones. Daily, I see people who are driving and looking at their phones. 7th place, we should not have phones. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves. While you're at a movie, I recently watched Black Panther, great movie by the way, and multiple people in the theater kept checking their phones during the movie. We're not even present in a movie today. I actually hope in the future we can have devices that block all the phone signals in movie theaters. 8th place, we should not allow phones is when you're doing homework, and parents, you might need to teach your kids this. Most students today take 2 times as long to do homework because they're never actually really on task. They do a bit of homework, check a group message, check Snapchat, check Instagram, do a bit more schoolwork, and back and forth. It's easier to just do your homework with intention, doing it well, and then check your phone afterwards. 9th place, we should not allow phones when reading a book. I watch people while on vacation or in an airport with a book in one hand and a phone in the other. Just read your book and you can check your phone again later. And this kind of would be part of number 10, which is we should not allow phones on vacation. I get you might check in with your family once a day, or you might have to check in with work once a day, but just put your phone away. We actually need time to get separated from what's going on in the outside world. Now, for some of you, you might think this is going to be an impossible thing to implement in your life. So, first off, if you believe that, you might actually be addicted to your phone. But 2, why don't we just try to incorporate one of these things in our life? Just one. Once you've successfully added some phone-free times into your life, add a few more. And maybe for parents, we would start with meal time, and maybe then we add drive time and things like that. Parents, I would also suggest that you need to deal with your own phone addictions as well, so that you can properly model good technology use for your kids. I would love to hear how this goes for people. Please add any comments here or send me a private message. Talk to you soon.